He had no funding, no famous name, and no Silicon Valley connections. Yet he outperformed Apple, Google, and Microsoft. This is the untold story of how one poor boy defied the impossible and beat the biggest companies on earth. Our story today is about Sergey Brin. He was born in 1973 to a middle-class family in Moscow, Russia. His dad was a normal engineer, while his mom was a normal computer scientist. When Sergey was only 6 years old, his parents divorced and his dad remarried. This meant that young Sergey would have to move between two different households every single week. It was an extremely difficult situation to grow up in, and many kids simply couldn't cope and ended up turning to drugs or alcohol, but not Sergey. Instead, Sergey used his time wisely. He learned how to code when he was just 12 years old, and by age 18, he developed a reputation as one of the best programmers in all of Russia. After high school, he enrolled at the University of Maryland, but he didn't go for computer science. You see, he wanted to be a mathematician, so he studied aeronautics and astronautics instead. While studying in the US, he met some of the smartest people from around the world. Some were already millionaires, while others were working on groundbreaking research. But even though Sergey was surrounded by the brightest minds in the world, he was still very poor. He could barely afford food and often went hungry. But even in this situation, he was always smiling and never lost hope. In 1994, Sergey graduated with honors and got into Stanford University for his master's. At Stanford, he met another brilliant young man named Larry Page. They both had big dreams, but they lacked something very important: money. The two quickly formed a bond over their love for coding and lack of money. And this forced them to do something they never imagined they would. They had to take up odd jobs in order to survive. But since they were both extremely intelligent, they weren't serving tables or flipping burgers. Instead, they did odd jobs for other students and professors. Sometimes they worked as research assistants, and sometimes they did programming work for extra cash. Despite having almost no money, they had everything they needed to start a company. They had brilliant ideas. They had a passion for technology, and most importantly, they had each other. Then in 1996, one of their professors gave them a small grant of $100,000. This gave them enough money to rent an office and hire a few employees. Together, they started a company called Google. At first, their business wasn't particularly successful. Most of their revenue came from odd jobs and small projects. But then in 1998, Larry and Sergey had a brilliant idea. They decided to capitalize on the growing popularity of the internet and launched a new search engine. It was nothing fancy, but it performed really well and quickly gained popularity. However, success wasn't easy. Oftentimes, their servers would crash due to high traffic, which meant they had to spend more money upgrading their infrastructure. But even though the financial situation was getting worse, Larry and Sergey had a good feeling about their business. They knew that Google was going to change the world. But before we get into that, we want to say a big thank you for supporting our channel. We really appreciate it. Now let's get back to the story. In 1999, Larry and Sergey were offered a deal they couldn't refuse. Sundar Pichai, who was a product manager at the time, had been trying to secure funding for Google for quite some time now. But it seemed like investors weren't interested in the search engine business. In fact, most of them thought it was a dying industry. But somehow Sundar managed to convince them and secured $25 million. With the new capital, Google was able to expand rapidly and enter several new markets. But this also led to some tension between Larry and Sergey. As the company grew, Larry became more concerned about its direction and started to micromanage. This caused a lot of stress within the company and ultimately led to him leaving in 2001. When Larry left, Sergey took over as CEO and appointed Eric Schmidt as executive chairman. Under Sergey's leadership, Google experienced its most rapid growth yet. They expanded to new countries, acquired several major companies, and introduced some of the most popular products in history. For example, Gmail, Google Maps, Google Earth, and Android are all products of this era. But despite all these achievements, Sergey never forgot where the company started. Even after becoming a multi-billionaire, he continued to live in a small house near the Stanford campus. He also donated billions of dollars to charity and pushed for greater government transparency. Despite being successful as a businessman, Sergei was not satisfied with the state of the world. He felt like there was still too much poverty, hunger, and disease. This is why he pledged half of his wealth to charitable causes through the Giving Pledge. So far, he has donated over $7 billion. As you can see, Sergei's journey to success was far from easy. He faced numerous obstacles along the way, but he never gave up. In fact, he used every obstacle to his advantage and turned them into opportunities. That's why he was able to outperform tech giants like Apple, Google, and Microsoft. Now, if you think that's impressive, wait until you hear what he did next. After the success of Google, Sergei wanted to change the world. He had seen firsthand how much poverty and hunger there was in developing countries, and he knew that he had the resources to make a difference. So he started investing in various startups that were focused on solving these problems. One of his earliest investments was in 2004. He invested $1 million in a startup called One Laptop Per Child, which was founded by Nicholas Negroponte. This organization was created to provide low-cost laptops to children in developing countries. Sergei was so passionate about this project that he personally delivered the first batch of laptops to children in Afghanistan. He also served on the board of directors until 2013. Another investment that Sergei made was in 2005. He invested $500,000 in a startup called Solar Electric Light Fund, which was founded by William Self. This organization was created to provide solar-powered lights to rural communities in Africa. Sergei was so impressed with the impact that this organization was making that he increased his investment to $1. No. And he also helped them expand to other countries such as India and Haiti. In addition to these investments, Sergei also made several personal donations to various charities. For example, in 2008, he donated $100 million to the American Red Cross to help victims of the Sichuan earthquake in China. He also donated millions of dollars to organizations such as the Electronic Frontier Foundation, Human Rights Watch, and the Natural Resources Defense Council. However, some people criticize Sergei for his investments and donations. They argue that he is simply trying to improve his public image and that his actions are self-serving. They also point out that he has not been as active in recent years and has mostly stayed out of the public eye. Despite the criticism, Sergei's investments and donations have had a positive impact on millions of people around the world. He has provided children with access to education, helped families escape poverty, and saved lives through medical research. We truly hope that you enjoyed this story and that it has inspired you to make a positive impact on the world. Just like Sergei, we believe that everyone has the ability to make a difference, no matter how small it may seem. Now it's your turn. What are some of the ways that you plan to use your success to make a positive impact on the world? Let us know in the comments below.